Hi, Daily Scholars. Welcome back to another recap of our core novel, Esperanza Rising. For this week, you are assigned the final two chapters, chapters 13 and 14. Now, chapter 13 is titled Los Duraznos, which mean the peaches, and your final chapter is titled Las Uvas. And the other titled one of the beginning chapters as Las Uvas as well, which means that Esperanza has worked a full season. And so Esperanza and her mom have been living in California in the camps for almost a year now. So let's jump right into chapter 13, Los Duraznos, the peaches. So the chapter starts out with Esperanza noticing that Isabel has been praying every single day, and she finds out that Isabel wishes that her teacher will select her to be the Queen of May for the school's parade. Now, Esperanza learns from Hortensia that the teachers never pick a Mexican student for that position, and Esperanza is concerned about how Isabel will react if she's not chosen. Now, one evening when they're preparing dinner, Miguel comes home from work and he's covered in mud. And they ask him what happened, and he explains that a lot of immigrants from Oklahoma have come to California to look for work. And they told the railroad owners that they are willing to work for half. And as a result, the railroad workers fired Miguel and others to hire the cheap laborers. They told Miguel that if you want a job, you can dig ditches, which is why he was covered in mud. After hearing this, Esperanza gets so upset and storms out of the house after throwing the piece of dough that she was working with at the wall. And she's upset with Miguel for not standing up for his own job. And Miguel tries to tell her that everyone has to work or we will all starve. And Esperanza is just upset that he has hope. And he doesn't want to give up. And she tells him, you are a peasant in Mexico, and you are still a peasant now in the United States. And Miguel leaves. And that night, she finds out that Miguel told his father, Alfonso, that he is leaving to Northern California to look for a job. And Esperanza is worried that Miguel left because of her. Now, on the weekend, Esperanza and Hortensia go to the hospital to visit Mama, and they receive great news. Mama is better, and in a week, she would be able to go home. And so they're so excited. All week, they prepare for Mama's return, and they bring Mama home. And that very night, Esperanza talks to her mom and tells her that she's been saving up money to bring Abuelita back. And at the very end, she brings out her suitcase. She opens it up, and all the money is gone. Now, this leads into chapter 14, the final chapter. It starts out with Esperanza noting that Miguel was the only one that knew that the money was in the suitcase. And so she's very upset that Miguel would take her money without permission. And of course, her mom explains that maybe Miguel had a good reason. Now, they're working in the sheds. Mama is still resting, but Esperanza's working, and she notices Alfonso at the sheds, which is interesting because the men work in the fields. And Alfonso comes to Esperanza with Hortensia, and he tells her that he received a phone call from Miguel stating that Alfonso and Hortensia need to bring Esperanza to the train station at 3 p.m. Now, Esperanza has no idea, but she's just very glad that Miguel is okay and that Miguel is back. And so they all go to the train station, and they're waiting. And finally, the bus from Los Angeles arrives. Everyone gets off. Then they see Miguel, and he runs out and he hugs his parents. And behind Miguel is a little old person. And it turns out to be Abuelita. And so they're so happy Esperanza could not believe her eyes, but they bring Abuelita back to the camp, and Abuelita finally gets to see Mama, Ramona, and they are all reunited, and they're so happy. And at the very end, we get to the title of our book and the front cover, where Esperanza is rising in the air, and Esperanza learns the lesson of Esperanza Rising. And I don't know if you remember, Esperanza means hope, right? And so Miguel has taught her the important lesson of never giving up hope, right? But to let hope rise. And that was the end of the chapter, or that was the end of the book. And so now for your assignments on your core novel packet pages, you will do pages 21 through 24. So I've already bookmarked it. On page 21, you will start out with vocabulary. You have a list A and a list B, and I'll read the directions. So we have synonyms are words with similar meanings. Draw a line from each word in column A to its synonym in column B. So optimism, you'll find the word that means optimism in column B, right? Now, if there are some words that you struggle with, hey, use your digital resources. Find an online dictionary, okay? The second step is to then use the words in column A to fill in the blanks in the sentences below, okay? So use column A to fill in the blanks. On page 22, we go right into questions to answer. Again, you can answer your questions on a lined sheet of paper. You don't have to write the questions, but I do want you to write your responses in complete sentences, which include you paraphrasing your question. Okay, so question 1 is, why does Esperanza know that Isabel's wish to be La Reina will not come true? So you can say, you can respond by saying, Esperanza knows that Isabel's wish to be La Reina will not come true because, all right? As always, the questions for discussion we will save for our Zoom meeting discussion, so you don't have to answer that. Next on your homework assignment is literary devices. So here we have, we have a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger is a device borrowed from serialized silent films in which an episode ends at a moment of suspense or heightened tension. In a book, it usually appears at the end of a chapter to encourage the readers to continue on in the book. What is the cliffhanger at the end of the chapter entitled Los Duraznos, the peaches? What happened? What was that cliffhanger at the very end where when we read it and we found out it would make a lot of readers say, I can't believe that happened. Right? So that's the cliffhanger. So describe the cliffhanger in complete sentences. On page 23, we'll continue literary devices. Next is to look at simile. So what is being compared in the following simile? Then, like the irrigation pipes in the fields, when the water is first turned on, her, Esperanza's anger, burst forth, right? So it says like the irrigation pipes. What is like the irrigation pipes? Okay, so explain that. And then the second question asks, why is this an apt comparison? Remember, apt means, is this a solid comparison? Is this a good comparison, right? So what is being compared to the irrigation pipes, and is this a good comparison, right? Next, we have your literary element. We have your theme. We finished the whole book, and so now, theme in literature refers to the statement about life the author is trying to get across to the reader, the life lesson. Often, the theme is repeated in different parts of the book. For example, Papa says in chapter 1, wait a little while, and the fruit will fall into your hand. Toward the end of the book, this quote is repeated by both Miguel and Esperanza. Right? So what does this quote mean? How does this quote apply to Esperanza's life? Right? Wait a little while and the fruit will fall in your hand. how may it apply to other people's lives, or maybe your life? Okay. After that, you have a short writing activity. This one will be very interesting. It says, write a letter to yourself and put today's date on it. In the letter, write about your hopes and dreams for the year to come. What are your goals? Right, so these are some questions you should write or questions you should answer in your letter to yourself. Okay, so what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish for this next year? What do you hope will happen to you, your family, and your friends? When your letter is finished, put it in a safe place and reread it 1 year from now to see if you have come closer to your goals. So I would say a safe place would be to put in an envelope and then write, ask my parents to remind me to read this letter in 1 year. Okay? And ask your parents to save this for you. I think this will be interesting for you to read when you are at the end of 5th grade. Okay? Now on our final page, page 24, you have a closed reading activity. It says the following passage has been taken from the chapter entitled Las Papas. So you can refer to Las Papas, that chapter, to help you. So read it through completely and then go back and fill in each blank with a word that makes sense. Then you may compare your language with that of the author. Okay? So actually, don't check the chapter in your core novel yet. Read through this part, and I want you to fill in what you think goes there. Then you can refer in your Las Papas chapters to see how good of a memory did you have. Okay? And after page 24, I've included on page 25 and 26 some post-reading activities. So post means after. Remember, pre means before and post means after. So these are just some fun activities that you guys can work on. Like here, I included a recipe for the coconut flan that Esperanza loves to eat, the little sweet treat. Right? So if you're interested, you can definitely do that and let me know how it goes. Okay. And this concludes the end of our recap video. As always, if you have questions, please contact your teacher, either during our Zoom meetings or on Microsoft Teams. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. Bye.